Well, it's official, everyone. There will be no preseason games played this upcoming NFL season. They have decided to cut all the preseason games in hope of buying time while they monitor the situation, and hopefully we will get an NFL season out of this, but we'll have to see. They're going to buy time and focus on safety protocols and just see how the situation goes. So, yeah, there will be no preseason games played. Now, on one hand, I'm glad there's no preseason games played. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Most of us feel this way. The preseason's useless for the most part. We don't really care for preseason. There should not be 4 preseason games. That's way too much. I'm fine with 1 or 2 preseason games, but to have 4, that's way too long. Like, there's no need for 4 preseason games. It was basically worthless. It was like, this should have been done a long time ago. It shouldn't have taken this point where, in the situation we're dealing with right now, for them to decide to cut these preseason games. But for the most part, yeah, I'm glad there's going to be no preseason this year. Let's focus on safety precautions. Let's focus on trying to get an NFL season and just dealing with that first. There's no reason to have to, let's at least buy time and see how the situation progresses over time. So, yeah, the fact that there's no preseason games, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think most of us are fine with it because we didn't like the preseason anyway. But on the other hand, I really wish there was at least 1 preseason game that would have been played. Because what you guys have to understand is that the preseason, although we do not like it as fans, the preseason is not for the starters and it's not for the veterans. The preseason is for these undrafted free agents, as well as the rookies, but mostly the undrafted free agents. This preseason is supposed to be their time to show the team what they can contribute to them in order to make a roster spot. There are a lot of guys that are out there that are unrestricted free agents that are fighting for their jobs. The preseason is the only opportunity they get to show these teams what they can do. And this allows the teams to assess these players so they know who to pick and choose to put on their final 53-man roster. Without a preseason to assess that, their jobs become much harder. And I know a lot of people will say, yeah, but you got training camp for that. You can just look at training camp and be able to assess that. And on one case, you are right. You can look at training camp and assess that. But on the other hand, it's difficult to do that when you don't know how they're going to perform in the game. The preseason at least gives them a game. You can see footage of them playing up against these other opponents. Game footage is very, very key in determining what that specific individual can bring to your team. And without actual game time experience or game time film, you don't know how they're going to react to a game. Practice is different from the actual game. You can be great at practice, but when you get in the game, you can be very ineffective and for the most part not contribute anything. Whether you're on offense, defense, or special teams, you may not be able to contribute anything on the field, but you can be a great person in practice. That's how it is for some people. So this job becomes a lot harder for these coaches to assess who they want to keep on their roster. Now, most teams, they have their main guys. You got your veterans, you got the rookies who, for the most part, they're all going to make it. But with these undrafted free agents, they play very key roles, especially in special teams. They play a key role in special teams in having that organized. So not being able to know who's going to make the roster, who's going to be that extra spot, where you're going to get depth at where, how effective can they be for the team, without all this knowledge that you would usually get from the film you would watch in the preseason, their job becomes a lot harder. So I really wish there would have been at least 1 game played, because it would have been nice to see these undrafted free agents get a shot to show what they can do in actual game time experience. But at the end of the day, we understand the situation we're in, so you just got to deal with it. So that's pretty much the situation. There'll be no preseason games, but for the most part, we know training camp has started. You didn't know today's the first day of training camp, but training camp is definitely going to be different from all the other years. For one, the players are not allowed in the facility just yet. As a Ravens fan, you already know we started training camp today in terms of our rookies showing up, and they did not go in the facility. They have not been in the facility yet, and they won't be in there for a while. What they did today was basically get tested. You have to test them, and basically what they're going to do is they're going to test them throughout these next 2 days. And if they get 2 negative test results, they will be free, they will be allowed to enter into the facility, and from there they can get started practicing. Now, it's going to take a while for them to get on the field. It's going to be stretched out through a long process, which is probably why they got rid of the preseason games, because it's going to take a whole lot of time to be able to get these guys back in sync. In fact, it's going to be quite a while before these guys can even be able to wear pads and go out there and play on the field. So, yeah, right now, this first day was mostly the testing period. Tomorrow will be the same. It'll take a couple days, and once these rookies have been tested properly, they'll be able to come in. It'll probably be the same for once the quarterbacks and injured players come in, and then when the other players come in, they'll probably be tested, wait for a couple days, and then they'll be allowed into the facility. So we're probably not going to get any actual probably practice time like with the whole team. We're not going to get the whole team practicing probably until early August. So yeah, this week's going to be about testing players and making sure they can enter the facility. And then once they can get in the facility, for the most part, they're going to have to figure that situation out. So at the end of the day, the fact that there's going to be no preseason game should buy them a lot of time to get, also monitor the situation while also getting these players tested and making sure they're okay and that they get into the facility. And now once they get in the facility, they can actually start working out and getting to training, and eventually they'll be able to get on the field and actually start doing some practices there. And then at the end of the day, probably mid-August, they'll finally be able to start wearing pads and actually go at it. So we'll see how the situation goes. But yeah, training camp started. We'll have to see how that goes. They're getting tested though, so here are the safety precautions that people are waiting for. Also, once they get inside the their training facilities, this goes for all teams. Once they get inside their training facilities, they will be tested, I believe, every day. They'll be tested every day within a 2-week period to make sure they're okay. Once that 2-week period passes, I don't know what they're going to do after that. But for the most part, it starts with this early testing before they can go in the facility. Then it'll be a 2-week period where they're getting tested every day just to make sure they're okay. So yeah, that's all I really got for you guys today. There will be no preseason games, so that sucks. I wanted at least one for the unrestricted free rookies, for the unrestricted free agents to at least have an opportunity to go out there. Same for the rookies. I would have liked to see the rookies go out there too, but we'll have to wait till the regular season to see them. So yeah, you got no NFL preseason games. Training camp are started for the rookies, and right now we're in the period where everyone's getting tested. So we'll see how the situation progresses throughout the week, and we'll see how this goes. Anyway, that's all I got, and I'm out of here. Peace!